Hello and welcome to Cruel Crimes. Courtney Clenney, a model for OnlyFans, is the subject of today's true crime story. Because this is a relatively recent case, I've done my best to incorporate as much current information as possible into this video. Courtney Clenney was born on April 21, 1996, to Deborah and Kim. The family was raised in Texas, where Courtney and her sister Morgan grew up. And with her father holding a finance degree and working as a financial advisor, they also had ample financial resources to support the family. Growing up, the daughters were allegedly spoiled and received whatever they desired. Their parents had always been involved in sports. Naturally, this was mirrored in Courtney and Morgan as well. By the time Courtney reached the second grade of high school, she was already involved in a long list of physical activities. Football, gymnastics, volleyball, diving, and horseback riding are just a few examples. She was also interested in theater, drama, and dance. She began taking classes for all of these things when she was 13 years old. She began to take exercise and physical fitness much more seriously in high school. She then went on to become a certified personal trainer. She went on to win several weightlifting and fitness competitions. Recognizing that college was not the right path for her, she eventually dropped out of school to pursue other interests, such as fitness and social media. Around this time, she began to notice that photos of her at the gym were receiving a lot of attention on the internet. With this in mind, several chance encounters propelled her into the internet spotlight. Courtney explained how she became famous on Instagram by consistently posting content, giving interviews, relocating to Los Angeles, appearing in Playboy, and other collaborations with other models. Courtney's following on Instagram and other social media platforms was rapidly growing. And following the establishment of OnlyFans in 2016, she spotted a new golden opportunity. Because she was young, confident, and in great shape, and didn't mind the extra attention, why not try it? She reasoned. OnlyFans is an internet content subscription service that allows creators to share whatever kind of content they want with fans. Courtney was already very popular. She had over 1 million Instagram followers. This resulted in a slew of opportunities. It's difficult to say how much money Courtney was making before OnlyFans, but she had made more than $3 million on the platform in less than 3 years. Courtney earned more than $1 million from fans alone in 2020, excluding all other forms of revenue. Many would argue that Courtney led a life that most of us could only dream of. She had fame, fortune, and success, as well as a very supportive family. In addition, she was a stunning young lady at the top of her game. Her industry and lifestyle may not be for everyone, but however, given her position, she was extremely fortunate to be earning such a large sum of money. And in 2020, just as all of this was taking off, that void in her life was filled. Around this time, she met Christian Abumzeli, a young and charming man whom she affectionately nicknamed Toby. Christian was born on April 12, 1904, in Dallas, Texas. Christian became interested in basketball and football while attending Murphy Middle School. And by the time he arrived at Plano East Senior High School, his abilities were almost as noticeable as his endearing personality. Toby's football coach remembers him as a warm and caring man with an exceptional work ethic. He always had a smile on his face and was eager to assist any of the other younger players. Toby was known in recent years as an extremely compassionate and gentle man with a contagious smile. He had also dabbled in the stock market at a young age. Surprisingly, he was also quite good at it. He earned a very comfortable living by combining the two moneymakers. Christian fell in love with Courtney almost immediately. And that feeling appeared to be mutual because, within a few weeks, they were in a very passionate relationship. Friends claimed that everything appeared to be fine at first. They appeared to be deeply in love and were having a great time together. However, after a few months, the relationship had evolved into something very dark and serious. Those who knew Toby prior to meeting Courtney noticed a sad and troubling change in him as well. Where he was once bright and full of energy, he now appeared stressed, preoccupied, and withdrawn. Courtney had become somewhat controlling. When it came to her boyfriend, she would frequently become enraged over trivial matters. Pull Toby away from his friends, and then, before they knew it, she'd be screaming at him at the top of her lungs. Physical violence became more visible within the relationship over time. And, while it all started with Courtney hitting him on the chest and shoulders, which is already bad enough, it would get much worse. Toby decided to become her personal assistant because of her lucrative and ever-expanding career. That meant he was constantly traveling, working, and catering to her needs. Toby had a lot of fun with this. But he was always around her and was constantly exposed to her physical violence and behavior. Courtney, on the other hand, was dealing with other issues. She became a regular in Austin's downtown bars and clubs. Her dependence grew as her alcohol consumption increased. This could explain some of her outbursts toward Toby. She was arrested in July 2021 after throwing a glass at Toby's head in Las Vegas. Courtney was detained for 12 hours after her arrest. Despite her injuries, Toby refused to press charges and pleaded for her release. Courtney even changed her story while being interviewed by police officers, claiming that she was the one who called them in order to avoid further embarrassment. Courtney eventually admitted to throwing glasses and plates at her boyfriend. For better or worse, the couple eventually decided to leave Texas and begin a new chapter in their lives together. Toby was obsessed with London and had big plans to move there. But for Courtney, it was Miami. And, as usual, she got her way. To be fair, they both liked the idea of living in Miami. It's well known for its beautiful beaches, non-stop nightlife, and pleasant weather. And there are many appealing characteristics for young adults who like to party and have a lot of money. So, in January 2022, they made the decision to relocate 1,100 miles from Austin to Miami. Courtney was making a good living by this point. Her apartment choice reflected this. With 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and breathtaking views of Biscayne Bay, their apartment was unimaginably luxurious. Of course, the rent was not cheap, and in fact, it has been confirmed that Courtney spent an exorbitant amount of money to live there. To be precise, $100,000 per month. Furthermore, she frequently boasted about being able to pay the rent entirely on her own. And would even gloat and threaten to kick Toby out onto the streets if he misbehaved. Courtney's bad behavior worsened after she moved to Miami. She quickly became a familiar face in the neighborhood's clubs and bars. Her demeanor and attitude deteriorated. This behavior was also devoid of nuance. Courtney's actions were becoming increasingly erratic. She posed a serious threat to Toby's health, both physically and mentally. Worse, she took pride in the situation, finding it amusing at times. She also yelled and screamed at Toby, using many derogatory words, including racial slurs, trashing their home and hotel rooms while away, and even throwing his belongings off their apartment balcony. Courtney's temper tantrums became so violent that, after destroying the entire apartment, she was arrested. She then demanded that Toby move out, and sealed the deal by throwing all of his clothes over the balcony ledge. But Courtney knew what she was doing was wrong. And every time something like this happened, she would profusely apologize by showering him with gifts. In one case, she attempted to make amends for ruining his entire wardrobe by purchasing a Louis Vuitton luggage set. It cost her around $100,000. Toby's many messages and recordings show that he was both distraught and devastated by her actions. Despite this constant aggression, he would always defend her in front of officers and other people. Despite the fact that she did not reciprocate, he always seemed to have her back. He kept track of numerous letters and text messages over the course of months and years. And it's clear from all of these articles how heartbroken, yet in love he was with her. In November 2021, another of Courtney's more violent outbursts resulted in her stabbing him in the leg. And, while there appeared to be signs of remorse and sympathy the next day, this seemed to last only 24 hours. In a recovered text message from Toby it said, "The crazy thing about all of this is that yesterday, when you stabbed me in the leg, and you saw how much it was hurting me, I awoke happy the next morning. I still made your day. Despite the fact that my leg was hurting from being stabbed by my girlfriend, I awoke cheerful. I took you to Vegas, drank with you, and did blow with you just so you could have a good time. And all of this while my leg is in excruciating pain. Did I make you feel bad for stabbing me? No, I just sucked it up and hoped for the best tomorrow." Toby said in another text message sent in March 2022, "Is love going to kill me? What might happen the next time? February was the worst month I've ever had. I was cheated on, and I was called that word again. I got slapped in the stitches, which have reopened several times. And it's not healing quickly enough. I've been kicked out. I'm just trying to get a couple of things off my chest before going to therapy." To be more specific, Toby and Courtney's relationship had ended and restarted several times in the previous 2 years. They did, however, reach a new breaking point in March 2022. Despite having only lived in the house for about 2 months, the police had visited them twice, with a total of 12 calls made in the previous months. Courtney's demeanor had changed dramatically in recent weeks. When they argued, she threatened to kick him out of the apartment. Now, thankfully, with him living there full-time for the last few months, she lacked the legal authority to act immediately. Courtney, on the other hand, would try to do it regardless. In the last week of March 2022, she even asked her mother to stay with her for a week while she tried to kick him out. During this time, Courtney officially ended her relationship with Toby. He spent the next 6 days living on a small sofa in the apartment's small foyer. Courtney's mother eventually returned to her own home on April 1, 2022. Leaving Courtney and Toby to sort things out, however, this did not appear to go well, as the following day, Courtney was furious when the police were called back to her apartment. On the evening of April 2, the apartment concierge called the cops after witnessing a heated argument between the two. Interestingly, Courtney initially begged him not to call the cops. This was even captured on an officer's body camera. However, once officers arrived in the lobby, she quickly changed her tone to sound as if she did want them there. After all, it's important to note how Courtney responded to the officers' questions here, as she appeared determined to obtain a restraining order against Toby. But more specifically, before he did so, Courtney interrupted the entire conversation. Almost everyone appeared to be emotionally unstable and frequently contradicted what the concierge had already informed officers. Courtney and Christian's toxic relationship was now on full display for the authorities, staff and other neighbors living nearby, and it was clear to everyone that their relationship should not continue, regardless of the circumstances. Just one day later, according to Courtney, the two reconciled just hours after the altercation. However, whether or not their relationship was doomed to fail would never be known, because police officers would be called back to the apartment the next day, but this time, Courtney's actions and the consequences would be irreversible. April 3, 2022, 4:57 p.m. A terrifying phone call was made to emergency services. Officers and paramedics were called to Courtney's apartment. When they arrived, they discovered a horrific scene. Christian had a stab wound to the chest and was bleeding profusely. Christian's voice trembles as he tells Courtney that he can't feel his arm and that he's going to die. He was discovered in Courtney's arms upon arrival, and as they inspected the property, they discovered multiple puddles of coagulated blood, implying that he had been bleeding for some time before officers arrived. Blood was also discovered on the kitchen island and in the master bedroom, the bathroom and the back of the living room. Courtney was then told to sit on the floor outside her apartment. Witnesses noticed she was covered in blood while strangely kissing her dogs. Toby was rushed to hospital. With the amount of blood lost, it was clear that everyone was working against the clock to keep him alive. Courtney was taken to the local police station for questioning because she had already admitted stabbing him. Surprisingly, she even spoke to them without an attorney present. Courtney rambled and wrestled her way through many questions and statements for more than 4 hours. She claimed that she and Christian had reconciled following their altercation with officers. The following morning, supposedly, things began amicably, and to help keep it that way, Christian left around 1:15 p.m. to go for a walk to clear his mind. Apparently, she had spent the majority of the afternoon on the phone with her mother, doing laundry and watching YouTube videos. Courtney then spent half an hour live on Instagram before wrapping up at 4:33 p.m. Christian returned home with a Subway sandwich. But this is where things start to go wrong, because it turned out that Courtney was still mad at him. Toby had apparently stopped sharing his live location with her, and because she didn't trust him, this was a major issue. For those who are unaware, there are apps such as Find My Friends, which permanently displays your phone's location to those you trust and have given permission to see your location. Toby eventually revealed his location to Courtney. However, when he asked her to reciprocate, she refused. She claims Toby then grabbed her by the neck and pushed her to the floor. He became even more enraged after she called her mother for help. Toby allegedly charged at her, and in response, Courtney then grabbed a kitchen knife and screamed, "Don't come any closer." Toby, on the other hand, did not appear to stop. As a result, Courtney allegedly threw the knife at him from a distance of about 10 feet. Instead of calling 911, she decided to call her mother, and talked for 13 minutes before dialing 911. 13 crucial minutes were lost while Toby was heavily bleeding. Throughout her interrogation, Courtney claimed that she had not had time to think about her story. This is highly suspicious, as she shouldn't have needed to do this if she was going to be truthful and transparent. During her interview, Courtney even questioned whether her actions against Toby were justified. But, about 2 hours later, it was revealed that Toby had died, shortly after arriving at the hospital. Christian's friends and family were devastated to hear the news. No one saw this tragedy coming. As soon as Courtney's name was included in the cause of death, many questions began to arise. Following the devastating news, Courtney was voluntarily admitted to a psychiatric ward for evaluation under Florida's Baker Act, which offers mental health services in an emergency. However, this is where things become very uncomfortable for investigators, because she was released from the hospital and allowed back into the real world only 2 days later. Strangely, investigators determined that the entire incident was the result of a single domestic dispute. Courtney had acted in self-defense, so she was free to go. This devastated Toby's family, and it was later revealed that detectives arrived at their conclusion only 24 hours after arriving on the scene. All of this sparked a massive debate about privilege and being young. A beautiful young white lady. And it was obvious to some that she was not the victim of his actions. And, believe it or not, as all of this was going on, Courtney was back to her old habits, including drinking with her father, but Courtney's lawyer had successfully convinced the police that her actions were in self-defense against Christian, who was allegedly responsible for his own death. Courtney was released after officers believed her story. She was allowed to do whatever she wanted without being questioned. But, of course, this would not deter Christian's friends and family from tirelessly seeking justice. They almost immediately hired a lawyer who was able to see the tumultuous relationship from a different perspective. And, when combined with the evidence in front of them, they were certain that Toby was the victim. But, before they could do anything, they needed to lay out the evidence. The legal road ahead was long and arduous. And, while Toby's family had set up a GoFundMe page to help pay for his funeral, Courtney was in Texas, blowing over $1 million. She left Miami to be closer to her family. And only 2 months after his death, in June 2022, she paid $1.4 million for a luxurious Texan home near her parents. The 3,000-square-foot hillside home in Lake Point has 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a hot tub, and 3 large deck areas. In addition to this, she wired millions of dollars into her father's bank account. Courtney was already a heavy drinker, but after Christian died, she became even more so. Her bad habits became much worse. We know this because she was quickly admitted to a rehab facility in Hawaii, where she stayed for several weeks for substance abuse and PTSD. But it appears that while she was out buying houses, while she was getting drunk and then falling back on herself, a storm was quietly gathering in the distance. That storm would finally begin on August 10, 2022. When Courtney was arrested on suspicion of second-degree murder. The prosecution claims that it took so long to arrest her because they only had one chance to persuade the authorities. As a result, they wanted to make certain that they had all of the necessary evidence. The state attorney's office now had a plethora of potentially incriminating evidence. This includes infamous elevator footage in which Courtney is seen attacking Toby. The letter recordings and text messages he left, and over 12,000 text messages were sent between the two. Her charge for domestic battery against Toby in Las Vegas in July 2021 has also been revealed. As did other historical accounts of her abusive nature. She allegedly attempted to stab her previous partner before Christian. Sean Roden's jaw had also been broken, a well-known bodybuilder, in February 2017. Many mutual friends of Courtney and Toby would also argue that Courtney was the aggressor in their relationship. Furthermore, Toby always seemed to be the peacemaker. The medical examiner's reports, however, contain the most damning evidence to date, which concluded that Toby's injury could not have been caused by a thrown knife, as specified by Courtney. It was also noted that with an injury depth of 8 centimeters, 3 inches, the attack must have been very close range. It was also determined that his injury was consistent with an intentional stab wound, which was inflicted on him via a downward thrust motion. It should be noted that Courtney claims she acted in self-defense after Toby grabbed her by the neck and threw her to the ground. However, no visible marks or injuries were observed during or after her interview with officers. Courtney's case has only gotten more attention in the media over time. And it appears that, even from the grave, Toby has been able to shed more light on the abusive relationship by making several secret recordings. Following Courtney's arrest and all of the publicly available evidence, she is now facing one of the most widely anticipated trials in modern history. With Courtney's trial now set for 2023, a new date is likely to be announced soon. In addition, Courtney's defense felt a motion to release her own bond while she awaited trial. However, after stating that there is a high probability that the defendant committed this offense, as well as highlighting how much money she has in her bank accounts, the judge determined that Courtney posed a significant flight risk. As a result, she was ordered to remain in detention until her trial. This is the state of Florida. Courtney Clenney faces life in prison if convicted of second-degree murder. Toby, victim or perpetrator, did not deserve to die that fateful evening. At the age of 27, with only 1 week until his 28th birthday. He was just starting out as an adult. Toby was clearly an emotional and sensitive man, as evidenced by his letters and text messages. He was not afraid to wear his heart on his sleeve and share his love. He had a lot of love to give. Was empathic, intelligent, and had a bright future ahead of him, a future that was tragically snatched away. That's all for today's story. Thank you for watching, and please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Goodbye.